So there I was, laying awake that night in the depths of Herod's palace. And I could hear them. I could hear them outside. I couldn't see them, but I'd seen them do it before, so I could envision it. I could hear them shaping that wood. In my mind's eye, I could see those hands chiseling rough timbers, 3 of them. They wouldn't take time to smooth them out. They would leave them coarse, and they would leave them splintered. Like some rafters in a house that are just supposed to be covered over with plaster. 2 of those 3 boards were for my comrades in the cell next door. One of them was for me. And they weren't going to be covered over with plaster. They were going to be covered with our blood and our flesh. You hear them shaking. What had we done? To the Romans, we were the criminals. To the Romans, we were guilty of theft and insurrection and murder, and yeah, we murdered. And yes, we had stolen things. But it was all in the name of our nation and for the sake of her people. We hated the Romans. They hated us. They considered us to be little more than dogs. Simple-minded vermin to be trodden upon and ruled over with an iron fist. That's why I'm here. But that night there was a commotion outside the prison wall. You see, I could see through my window torchlight spilling in and crossing my floor. I could hear the soldiers' marching feet upstairs. And then I heard the distant voices. You see, the arrival of a political prisoner always silenced the normal din. And so now with the hushed discipline of the soldiers, I knew that someone special had arrived. And we have to get one thing straight. I'm not sorry for what I did. I would do it all over. I would do anything to get rid of the Romans. I'd do anything to kill them. And now they're gonna kill me by crucifixion. There is no worse way to die, especially for a Jew. Dying on a tree, that is a cursed thing. My only hope is somehow that God will credit to me that it was Roman law that put me there, not his. You know, Jerusalem, it's always been filled with mystics and prophets. These guys that sell themselves on the street corners. And every one of them has a little band of followers that follow them around and claim that their guy is the only truth. Tonight, I could tell someone special had arrived. Somebody important. That's all I knew. You see, they don't give front row seats to condemned men. Outside my cell, in the courtyard, where the governor would address the crowd, I heard something going on. I could hear the voices of the people on the pavement of the praetorium, and they had a cadence to their shouting, and I heard it loud and clear. They were saying, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Then there was a pause, and then my name. Barabbas! Barabbas! And then once again, silence, and shortly thereafter, "Crucify him!" That was my last hope, and now it's gone. My fate is sealed. See, this time every year the governor would release one person. I was hoping it would be me. Not according to what I just heard. The Jews knew who I was. I was well known for what I did. But apparently I'm a little too dangerous now. Dangerous not only to the Romans, but dangerous for the Jews. Because when they caught me, it wasn't just me that suffered. Everybody's life was made miserable. So that night when my rusty cell door was flung open, that was the sound of death for me. I knew that they would take me outside, throw me onto the pavement, strip me, beat me, and chain me to be scourged. And after the flesh on my back had been shredded, I'd be forced to carry that rough piece of wood to a place called Golgotha, where they would crucify whatever was left of me to die. Slow, agonizing death. They yanked me out of my cell. They hauled me down that long, dark passage. The bright morning light almost blinded me as they threw me down outside the door. But the soldiers, they were angry. I didn't get it. They should be happy. They're about ready to kill someone they hate. But instead they're almost angry, and I don't know why. Cursing, they shoved me down onto the pavement. My shackles were removed, and with a few sharp kicks to my ribs, they left me. I thought they'd taken off my shackles so that they could chain me to the post to be scourged. But they took off my shackles and then left me there. Left me there. In the open. On the ground. They walked away. I was expecting death, and all of a sudden I'm free. The pavement was deserted that morning, except for one small gang of soldiers, huddled around a column where they beat prisoners. Somebody was chained there, an arm on either side of the post, and his back toward the one with the scourge. That soldier was laying in to every stroke. And the rest of them were just enjoying the show. I couldn't see who it was, but I could hear their curses, and I could hear their dark remarks about Jews, and something about a king of the Jews. I don't know who the prisoner was, but as the strokes hit, there was an odd peace about it. I don't understand that. Anybody would be crying out. I would have been screaming. But this man was silent as his back and as his shoulders were laid open. He didn't make a sound. Instead of struggling against the pain, he just stared up and gazed into the sky. Nowhere is air sweeter than outside the walls of your prison. So I sucked in as much air as I could, and I hit the road. I was free, and I wasn't looking back. I was walking the streets of Jerusalem. And then I was confused. I had heard the voices cry out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" And then I'd heard my name, and now I was free. Didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. Some of my friends informed me that it was a prophet who was arrested last night. They say he claims to be the Messiah. They say that he's a Galilean. He hails from Nazareth. Pilate had offered him as the one to be released. My friends were there. They were in the crowd. And of all things, they told me that the priests were lobbying the people to shout for my release and to condemn this man. Every time Pilate offered Jesus, the crowd demanded me. They would say my name instead. So Pilate finally gave in. I'm free. And Jesus was sent to the cross. My cross. The cross I heard them making for me. That's what they're going to hang him on. So I followed the crowd. I made my way through the streets toward the city gate, and on the road there he was, Jesus the Galilean. His robe soaked through with blood. His arms cut and bruised. His face was misshapen from all the beatings he received. And if that wasn't bad enough, like some sort of a sick joke that only the depraved could enjoy, they had pushed onto his head a crown of acacia thorns. There he was. And here I am. And so we walked. And soon we arrived at the place called the Skull. Now this was all common stuff for these soldiers. They'd done it hundreds of times. They were cruel, and they were methodical, and they were efficient, and they went about it with business-like efficiency. They took each man, they laid him out, spread the crosspiece under his back and his shoulders. Then the executioner would take an iron spike and nail it through each wrist. And then I watched as several of the soldiers lifted this Jesus off the ground, nailed to his crosspiece, and inserted it on the vertical post. Then I saw the executioner take his feet, bend his legs at the knees, and drive one final spike. What kind of a devil devised a death like this? Even if hell itself could be painted onto a canvas by the finest artist, it wouldn't compare to the depravity and the misery that I saw in the scene before me. I watched. I listened. Everything about this Jesus was from another place, another time, another kind of existence. He had no arrogance, no pride, no hatred in his face. And looking at him, I dropped to my knees in shame. Every bit of my arrogance was leached out. Every bit of my pride and my boasting and my conceit flowed out and mingled with that blood dripping from the cross. And in a moment, I revisited my own wretched life. I saw the death I caused and the pain that I brought into this world. And I realized that I was the most base from among a whole group of people that were base. And I realized that of everyone on the planet, it was I that should be hanging on that cross, not him. And between my two friends, agony was written on the face of Jesus. Agony. He was experiencing the pain of death. And there was in that face an agony that was more terrible more terrifying, something higher than I could ever imagine. But even in that, Jesus held on to his faculties. He held on. The insanity of the cross did not purchase his soul. And in his final moments of clarity, while all hell was breaking loose around him, and as heaven stood before him, Jesus turned and he looked at me without making a sound. Without uttering a word, his quiet gaze bore into the depths of my heart, as if to say, I'm dying. I'm dying.